They say a single moment can change your life forever. For me, it was the sound of silence, the deafening silence from the woman I loved when she returned from a school trip to Europe. A trip that should have been a milestone in her new career as a vice principal. Instead, it marked the beginning of the end. She got the job in early spring, vice principal at the high school. It was a proud moment for both of us. 23 years together, built on mutual sacrifice, shared dreams, and raising 3 beautiful boys. I thought we were a team. She was ambitious, driven, and I was proud to support her. She earned it. And then came the school trip. A 2-week excursion across Europe. She was excited, and I trusted her. I really did. But the woman who came back wasn't my wife. Not really. She was cold, distant. Intimacy gone. Conversation forced. At best, she picked fights over nothing. Every little thing about me irritated her. The smallest comment would trigger icy glares or sarcastic jabs. I kept wondering, what the hell happened on that trip? At first, I thought it was perimenopause. It made sense. The mood swings, the disconnection. I Googled, I researched, I tried to be supportive, patient, understanding, but nothing worked. Desperate, I started typing our daily interactions into DeepSeek AI, hoping for some insight. And what came back chilled me. The patterns, textbook signs of infidelity, emotional detachment, sudden secrecy, hostility toward me, a guarded phone, changed passcode. She started sleeping with her phone literally under her pillow, sometimes under her head. I wanted to believe it was nothing. I really did. But when you live with someone for over 2 decades, you know when something's off. And this wasn't just off. This was foreign, alien. Then came Easter, a long weekend, quiet on the outside, but inside me, a storm was brewing. She left her overnight bag in the hallway, and I looked. Judge me if you must, but something told me the truth was hiding in there. And it was a Valentine's Day card, not from me, not to me, from a man professing undying love, thanking her for the memories, Europe, hotel nights, shared moments. I read it twice. My hands shook. My heart pounded like a war drum. I nearly threw up. There were more cards. From our kids. But something was off. The handwriting. I asked our oldest son. He confirmed it. They'd written the cards with her principal. In his office. The same principal who had been on that trip to Europe. The same man she'd gone camping with twice in the summer, with the kids. I always assumed his family was there too. His wife, his son. Now, I don't think so. I confronted her, calmly at first, then pleading, then furious. But she gave me nothing. No explanations, no accountability, not even a hint of remorse. Just gaslighting, evasion, more silence. I asked her to leave, to move into our basement suite at least, give us some space. Give the kids peace. But she refused, said she had every right to stay in the house. I guess I was supposed to just live like a ghost in my own home. And that's what it became. A prison, a purgatory. I reached out to a VP in another school district. Asked them, what would happen if this got out? They told me, point blank, they wouldn't lose their jobs. They'd be separated, maybe reassigned to different schools. But their careers would survive. The scandal would tarnish their reputations, sure, but they'd walk away with paychecks and pensions intact. It wasn't the justice I craved, but it was a start. I held back. I'm still holding back, because I need to be smart, strategic. A man going through a separation in a no-fault province has to play chess, not checkers. This isn't about vengeance. It's about protecting my kids. About surviving the fallout. We have 3 boys, young, innocent, and this is what kills me most. They don't know the full story. They see the tension, sure. They hear the arguments, but they don't understand why their mom and dad live like strangers. I hug them tighter now. I tell them I love them every day. I won't be the parent who disappears into bitterness. I refuse. I've started journaling, talking to close friends, preparing to meet a lawyer in June. I need to know my rights. I need to be ready. I can't afford to make a single misstep. Everything is riding on this. My children, my home, my future. She's still under this roof. We pass like ships in the night. Her phone's always in her pocket. The fake smiles she wears when others are around, they haunt me. But I'm done guessing. I know the truth now. I've accepted it. Where do you go when your world falls apart in your own house? You stay for your kids. You fight for what's right. You hold your tongue when everything in you wants to scream. You play the long game. Because the truth always finds a way. I want to expose them. Believe me, I do. But the time will come. And when it does, I'll be ready. Calm, collected, strategic. This isn't just about betrayal. It's about reinvention. I've already started the journey. Slowly, quietly, every day, I reclaim a little more of myself. Not the man she tried to destroy, but the man I was always meant to be. To anyone else going through this, I see you. I hear you. Don't lose yourself in their lies. Stand your ground. Protect your peace. And remember, even in the darkest hour, dawn always comes. There's a moment, subtle but seismic, when you realize your entire reality is shifting. For me, that moment arrived like a slow avalanche. Not all at once, but as a series of tremors that built until I was buried alive. When she came back from that Europe trip, something in her had snapped shut. It wasn't just emotional distance, it was spiritual evacuation. This wasn't a cold streak or a rough patch. It was a complete and brutal personality inversion. She picked fights over nothing, micromanaged everything I did with the kids, rolled her eyes when I spoke, cut off intimacy entirely, like a switch had been flipped. My attempts to understand were met with contempt, and any mention of therapy or connection was greeted with scorn or silence. At first, I blamed stress. Then I considered perimenopause, maybe hormones, burnout, midlife crisis. But deep down, something didn't feel organic. It wasn't just mood swings, it was meticulous detachment. Then she changed her phone passcode, started sleeping with it tucked under her head, wouldn't let it leave her sight. My gut twisted every time I saw her on it, laughing quietly at texts that weren't meant for me. I found myself going full detective, not out of paranoia, but out of a desperate need to make sense of the nonsense. I started plugging behaviors into DeepSeek AI. Not your typical Google searches. I mean clinical level pattern detection, psychological modeling, infidelity symptom cross-referencing. And it came back again and again with one conclusion: she was likely cheating. Every flag she was waving fit the textbook. Emotional distancing, sudden protectiveness over her phone, increased criticism of me, sudden girls' trips, a complete narrative shift. Still, I had no proof, just an aching intuition. Then came Easter. I was rifling through her overnight bag looking for something innocuous. Lip balm, I think, when I found it. It was handwritten, romantic, undeniably intimate. Europe was unforgettable. Our secret hotels were the best part. You make me feel alive again. It hit me like a truck. I felt the air leave my lungs. My hands started shaking. My heart raced, but time slowed. I flipped through the rest of the bag, and there were other cards. One from each of our kids, in handwriting that I recognized. But something was off. My oldest son's words looked too polished, too coached. So I asked him. I sat him down gently and said, "Hey buddy, where did you write that card for Mom?" His answer turned my stomach inside out. We wrote them with her principal friend. In his office. That was the confirmation. That man, the one who went on the Europe trip with her, who supposedly took our whole family camping twice that summer, who I assumed was just another married school administrator doing his job, was the one. My wife's affair partner. She'd been taking our kids to see him, having them write cards in his office, turning our family moments into alibis. The betrayal wasn't just marital. It was existential. She didn't deny it, but she didn't confess either. When I brought it up, calm but direct, she went cold. Said I was invading her privacy. Said I was twisting things. Said I had no right to go through her stuff. No apology, no shame, no explanation, just gaslighting and stonewalling. She refused to move out. Refused to even consider the basement suite as a compromise. It was like trying to negotiate with a stone wall. Her presence in the house became a daily psychological war zone. Passive aggression at breakfast, silence in the hallway, a complete erasure of the partnership we once shared. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, but I was waking up. The denial that had kept me prisoner was disintegrating. I started talking to people. Quietly, a trusted friend in a neighboring school district, also a VP, told me bluntly, they won't lose their jobs. But if it gets out, they'll get reassigned to different schools. It'll tank their reputation with staff, especially if it comes with receipts. I took that to heart. I wasn't going to blow things up in the heat of pain. Not yet, not until I saw a lawyer and understood my leverage. Because in a no-fault divorce system, morality doesn't win you anything. But evidence, discretion, and preparation. That's where power lives. Living under the same roof as someone who betrayed you so deeply is a form of psychological torture no one warns you about. It's waking up every day with your stomach in knots. It's cooking dinner for the kids while she scrolls her phone, smirking, 2 feet away, like she didn't just gut your soul. It's pretending for the sake of the children that everything is fine when the air between you could ignite from the tension. I tried to maintain some civility. For the kids. For the legacy of what we once had. But she made it impossible. Every day was a mind game. Every room became a battlefield of passive-aggressive tactics. She weaponized her silence. She'd say things with her eyes that her mouth never dared. Cold stares. Disdain. Sometimes, an eerie satisfaction. Like she was watching me drown and couldn't be bothered to toss a rope. When I'd attempt small talk for the sake of the kids, she'd respond in monosyllables. When I'd suggest a schedule or a co-parenting discussion, she'd dismiss it or outright refuse. I was being punished for discovering the truth. She refused to sleep in the basement suite, claimed it was her house too. As if I hadn't poured 20 years into building our life brick by emotional brick. As if I hadn't sacrificed career moves, time, money, and health to keep our family afloat. The nights were the worst. Lying in bed knowing she was down the hall texting another man. I could hear the faint buzz of her phone lighting up in the middle of the night. I could see the glow under her door when she was up at 2 a.m. I didn't need to read the messages. I could feel the betrayal in my bones. And yet, I stayed. Not for her, for my boys. 3 young sons who didn't ask for any of this. 3 innocent hearts caught in the gravitational collapse of a love story turned black hole. As I waited for my June appointment with the lawyer, I started documenting everything. Timelines, screenshots, the Valentine's card, the kid's handwriting, her refusal to move out. Her erratic emotional behavior, the dates of the Europe trip, the camping weekends, the sudden surge in new clothes, new makeup, new lingerie that never showed up in our bedroom. Everything, because this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was chess, legal, financial, and custodial strategy. I wasn't going to burn the house down with emotional outbursts. I was going to win quietly, thoroughly, and with surgical precision. But that didn't mean I wasn't angry. I was furious. I was grieving. I was unraveling. Sometimes I'd walk the neighborhood at night, long after the kids went to bed. Just to breathe. Just to be away from her. Just to cry without witnesses. Other nights, I'd stare at old photos, our wedding day, the birth of our first son, family vacations, and wonder if any of it was real. Or was it all just an elaborate performance she got tired of maintaining? You have to understand, my wife wasn't just any woman. She was a vice principal, a role model, a figure of authority, integrity, and professionalism in the community. She was trained in psychology, emotionally intelligent, articulate, empathetic, on paper, but behind closed doors, she had become someone else entirely. When I dared to express pain or confusion, she'd twist it. "You're too sensitive. You're making things up. You're obsessed." She made me question my own sanity. That's what emotional manipulation does. It doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your compass. One night, I said, "Do you even care about what this is doing to our family?" She looked at me, dead-eyed, and said, "Stop being dramatic." It wasn't just apathy, it was cruelty wrapped in condescension. I realized then that the woman I loved was gone, and in her place was someone I didn't recognize. That's when the grief turned into resolve. She wasn't going to break me. She wasn't going to rewrite history. And she sure as hell wasn't going to walk away unscathed while dragging our children through her midlife implosion. I didn't know what the future would hold. But I knew one thing. This was war. Amid the chaos, I clung to one thing like a lifeline: my boys. They were my compass, my anchor, the only reason I didn't pack a bag, get in my truck, and drive until the road ran out. If it weren't for them, I'd be gone. Gone from the house, the town, the memories. But their laughter, their questions, their little footsteps padding through the hall, that's what kept me breathing. Being a dad in a crumbling marriage is a particular kind of heartbreak. You show up every day with a smile, knowing your heart is shredded. You make pancakes while your wife texts her affair partner. You coach soccer games while carrying the weight of betrayal like a stone in your chest. The boys didn't know, not yet, but kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They sense tension. They read the room better than adults do. My oldest started asking, "Why doesn't mom laugh anymore?" My middle one started acting out at school. My youngest just wanted extra hugs. I gave them everything I had. Even when I had nothing left in the tank. I made every lunch, took them to every activity, read every bedtime story, because they deserved one parent who showed up. Meanwhile, she continued living a double life. One foot in our home, one foot in her fantasy world. She'd disappear on weekends, claiming girls' retreats, or principal conferences, and I'd watch her pack with precision outfits I hadn't seen, perfume she never wore around me. She'd come back sun-kissed and glowing, not a trace of guilt in her eyes. The kids would ask, "Did you have fun, Mom?" She'd smile and say, "It was productive." I wanted to scream, to tear down the illusion, but I bit my tongue. Because dropping a truth bomb without a plan only creates shrapnel. And I wasn't about to let her recklessness destroy our kids' innocence. But inside, I was boiling. What she didn't understand was that every lie carries interest. You can delay the truth, but it compounds. And eventually, it comes to collect. She thought she was being discreet. But affairs have fingerprints. And once you start looking with eyes wide open, you see them everywhere. There were shared photos from school trips she didn't post but were tagged by others. Glances in group pictures. One too many, coincidental, schedule overlaps. There were receipts. Literally. Hotel charges that didn't match any conferences. Charges to restaurants 2 cities away. Once, I found a gas station receipt on the dashboard with a timestamp that placed her nowhere near her claimed destination. It was like watching someone set fire to a house while swearing they smelled smoke but couldn't find the flames. I started recording dates, locations, inconsistencies. I created a dossier, not out of spite, but out of survival. Because when this eventually hits the courtroom, I won't be the bitter husband. I'll be the one with facts, timelines, and receipts. Here's the cruel twist. Despite everything, I've protected her more than she deserves. I haven't outed her to the school board. I haven't told her colleagues. I haven't shared screenshots or written anonymous letters. I haven't sent the cards to our. Not because she's innocent, not because she deserves my silence, but because I know once the dominoes fall, our kids will feel the tremors. And unlike her, I still think about how this affects them. But I'll say this, I won't hold my tongue forever. If she pushes me, legally, emotionally, custodially, I will respond. Not with rage, but with the truth. And the truth, in full daylight, has the power to burn everything she's built. I'm not scared of fallout. I've already lived through the explosion. What I won't tolerate is injustice. So I wait, I watch, I prepare. The appointment with the lawyer inches closer. And when the time comes, I will walk into that office with a full deck. She may have burned our marriage down, but I'm the one building the future. There's a moment, somewhere between devastation and acceptance, when a man either breaks, or burns what broke him and steps forward into the fire. That moment arrived for me not with ceremony, but with quiet clarity. I was brushing my son's hair one morning, just a regular Tuesday, and he looked at me with his big, curious eyes and asked, "Dad, why does mommy never smile at you anymore?" I nearly dropped the brush. Kids know. They always know. I sat there frozen for a second, the bristles caught halfway through his messy hair. And then I smiled at him. A real one. The first in weeks. I told him, "That's not something you ever have to worry about. I'm always here, and that's what matters." But inside, I felt something shift. No more hoping she'd show remorse. No more fantasizing about closure or accountability. That was dead weight. I needed both hands free now. To hold my boys, to build our future, and to burn the scaffolding of a life I no longer lived in. June arrived, and with it, my appointment with the lawyer. I came in with everything. Dates, screenshots, photos of the Valentine's Day card, testimonies from my sons, a clear timeline, and a digital folder that could make even a seasoned divorce attorney blink twice. He looked through the materials, then looked up at me and said, "This is impressive. Painful, but useful. You're ahead of the curve." That was the first time I felt like I wasn't just surviving. I was strategizing. We talked through the options. Property division, alimony exposure, parenting schedules, custody evaluations, and the balance between preserving leverage and staying above the pettiness line. I told him I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. I didn't want war. I wanted peace. But I wasn't going to lie down and let her dictate the terms of my future. And then he said something that stuck with me. Family court doesn't reward emotional truth. It rewards preparation. So I prepared. Like the civil engineer I am, I drafted, revised, evaluated every load-bearing pillar of my case. I mapped it like a city grid. Not to destroy, but to rebuild. There were nights I still couldn't sleep. Nights I'd pace the yard, the hallway, the living room. I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder if this was all some long, dark joke. But then I began journaling. Not just scribbles, not filtered lines. I wrote the truth. The brutal, blood and bone truth. Pages upon pages of what she said, how she said it, what I felt, what I didn't feel. What I wished I had done differently. What I never deserved. Over time, the entries shifted. Less about her, more about me. Less about grief, more about growth. I went to the gym, finally. Not for vanity, just to feel something physical again, something real. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during the years of eggshell walking. I even started taking my sons out for father-son mini adventures. Just an hour here, a breakfast there. I needed them to see that their father wasn't shattered. He was still standing, still choosing them. Every day, she remained in the house. Cold, aloof, emotionally absent, and yet, smug in her entitlement. Like she believed she had somehow earned the right to be unaccountable. I offered compromise. I offered space. I even suggested therapy, mediation, transition planning. All rejected. She kept hiding behind the no fault laws like a shield, thinking it made her immune from moral consequence. But here's the thing about no fault. It's not no cost. People still see. Colleagues whisper. Kids remember. And karma keeps receipts. I started documenting everything. Her coldness, her refusal to parent, her detachment, Her deflection. My lawyer said, "Don't give her anything to twist. You're already winning this without lifting a finger. Keep the high ground." So I did. There was a night not long ago when my youngest son had a nightmare. He came running into my room, not hers. I held him until he fell asleep in my arms, his breath slow and even, trust embedded in his grip. There was a parent-teacher interview I attended solo because she had other plans. His teacher told me, "He talks about how you're always there. He says you're his anchor." I realized I didn't need her to admit anything. I didn't need a courtroom confession or an apology letter. Every time she chose selfishness, I chose presence. Every time she lied, I built truth. Every time she closed a door, I opened one for my sons. I'm not naive. The next year will be tough. Legal fees, negotiations, possible custody evaluations. She may weaponize the children. She may lash out when she feels the consequences creep in. But I've already faced the worst, betrayal by the woman I built my life around. I survived it. I'm still here. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll fight for my children, not out of spite, but because they deserve better than a mother who used her power to deceive and manipulate. I'll fight for my peace, not to punish, but to protect what I've rebuilt. And one day, years from now, when the dust has long settled and my boys are grown men, I hope they'll look back and see not just the heartbreak, but the strength, the calm, the dignity. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of rebirth. Of a man who faced the fire and refused to let it consume him. Of a father who held the line when the home became a battlefield. Of a soul who chose truth over comfort, honor over rage, and resilience over collapse. So if you're in the fire right now, if you're reading this and wondering how to breathe when the air's thick with betrayal, know this. You can, you will, and when it's over, you'll rise too. Because broken doesn't mean beaten. It just means you've got work to do. And God help the world when you're done.